Do you want more misunderstood movies and madcap slumber party fun? Well, join us. Join our super core at patreon.com/cinema insomnia. You can get exclusive perks and help us make this 16th season your favorite Cinema Insomnia season ever. Become one of our patrons. Patrons? Patreons.
Patreons.
Patrons.
Patrons?
I think you're a patron at Patreon. Yeah, I believe that's how that goes.
Does Tron go to Patreon?
Oh, I hope so. I love Tron. Patreon.com/cinema insomnia.
This space for rent. This signal space to your ears for rent. This space between your ears for rent.
Do you have a product, service, website, company? Propose, perhaps? No, we don't want to do that, right?
You can't propose?
Well, I mean, if you really wanted to propose...
It would be encased forever.
Johnny says, will you marry me, Susie? We could do that, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Why not? If you have a product or service or whatever to promote, people, especially that you want to promote to our listeners, why not become a sponsor?
A sponsor, you say?
Yeah, a sponsor of this program. Contact Mr. Lobo at his personal email. I'm giving this out right now just for you. Okay, right. Don't tell anyone. Shh, all right?
Whisper it.
Mr. Lobo, that's MRLOBO, at cinemainsomnia.com. CINEMAINSOMNIA.com.
That sounds so sexy.
Yes. Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com. Contact me and we will get you on the air. We will talk about your stuff.
Your stuff. I believe this is the point where we start the program.
Oh, that's right.
And
so why not we get this program started? All systems go.
Factors about. So, having the podcast, I think, really helps, especially if you're doing crowdfunding for what you're doing. We have a channel, also streaming channel called OSI 74. I don't know if we've got one person out there who knows what OSI 74. A couple people who know what OSI 74 is. OSI 74 is a streaming channel for Roku. It basically is everything on the channel is either. Oh, here we go. Sorry, wrong microphone. We got too many microphones here. This is the podcast microphone. This is the show microphone. If I gesture like this. If I gesture, you can't hear anything.
Don't you mean jester?
Not that kind of gesture.
Oh.
No, not like the clown
not
sort
the
of gesture. No,
that's what Dixie used to call it.
That's an obscene gesture.
Jester.
But the channel OSI 74 is basically a love letter to the old days of UHF television, early cable television, mom and pop video store. Everything on the channel is either weird or funny, or maybe some combination of both weird and funny. And retro. A lot of the stuff is older or has a retro feel, a retro style to it. So I guess weird, funny, and retro might be the three categories of things. But we've got old horror movies, old cartoons, horror host shows. How many people know what a horror host is? Okay, a couple people. Who was your horror host growing up? You have a horror host? Elvira, of course. Wasn't she amazing? I got to work with Cassandra Peterson a few times in my career, and she's a wonderful woman. She's helped me a lot, gave me a lot of good advice, and
3 minutes.
She was smart. She got good sponsorship. Pepsi and Coors put her on the map. I'm not that smart. And who is your horror host? Yeah. Does what count? The Crypt Keeper? Yes. John Kassir, the Crypt Keeper, he counts. The Crypt Keeper. I think that in American horror in general, there's this persistent idea of the spectral narrator. This weird character who somehow brings you into this weird, strange, dark world and brings you back safely with a lot of bad puns, usually. And I think that that tradition started in radio with The Old Witch and Inner Sanctum and shows like that. And then and those kids grow up listening to the radio who made the comics of the 50s. And then you had the Crypt Keeper and the Vault Keeper and the Old Witch. and the hosts of the 50s ended up, and the comic books, I think, ended up informing the television horror hosts. You know, like your Elviras and your Vampiras and your Zacherleys. So it's an interesting tradition going through radio and the printed word and into television and into movies. You know, you have movies like, you know, even Rob Zombie has like a kind of horror hosts in his universe. And so it's an interesting thing that it's, or horror, anyone here ever seen like Terror Vision or whatever, you know, or, you know, Fright Night, you know, the horror host that's involved in that. Are we wrapping it up so we can start the show?
About ready to start the show.
Attention Sleepless Knights. Thank you for consuming this OSI 74 product broadcast live from the Black Knight satellite. For optimum performance and safety, your host, Mr. Lobo, asks that you please listen to these instructions carefully. When in a hospital or other healthcare facility, observe the restrictions on the use of electronic devices. Switch off before boarding an aircraft to prevent interference with communications systems. Do not operate this device in the presence of flammable gases or fumes, chemical plants, or where blasting operations are in progress. Always listen hands-free while driving a vehicle. Failure to observe these instructions may lead to immediate termination. It's time now for the show to begin. Thank you. Have a very pleasant evening.
In 3, 2, 1.
You're not dreaming. You're listening to the Sleepless Knights podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Lobo. We are at RetroCon in beautiful RetroCon, Pennsylvania.
Yay!
Yay!
We're
My
live.
co-host is the lovely and talented Paul Sanders.
Let's get him up to the stage. Where's he at?
I don't know. He's
Where's he
probably
at?
drunk, probably in the bar.
Most likely.
Paul Sanders of BESTOW.
Technically, if we're still sleeping, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. You know, shouldn't people be like getting up and
I don't know.
going
Who
to
wants
work?
to do a panel at 11 in the morning? That's what I don't understand.
Put your hand down.
Oh. Anybody want to do a panel at 11 o'clock in the morning? I always end up hosting these horror conventions where we're hosting a horror movie at 10 a.m. in the morning. You know, these horror-thons. Who wants to watch a horror movie at 10 a.m.? Anybody? Oh, yeah, you
There
do?
we go.
Oh, just any time,
3
right?
people.
You're eating your Captain Crunch.
It's 24/7.
and Somebody gets disemboweled right there. Why not? Hi!
I got a
How are
fan.
ya?
Yay!
I guess we'll talk a little bit about ourselves since this is a panel of people.
Two
What?
people.
Two people.
Maybe I should put my mic here.
Basically, Basically, see, we got two microphones here, and this is getting really confusing. This is like the horror host sobriety test of like which microphone. Okay, we've got two microphones set
Could you
up.
quit blowing into the microphone, please?
One is the microphone for the podcast, which is set up by Paul, and one is the microphone for the actual panel, which if I don't talk into that, no one can hear what I'm saying.
Hi, Wendy.
Hey, Wendy and Brandon are here.
Yay.
How about that?
Give
Some
them a round
big
of applause.
fans. Show everyone your OSI 74 t-shirt. There it is. That's our streaming channel, OSI 74. Stands for Outer Space International. Started by Mr. Lobo, who is me. And my background is that I had a TV show for 17 years. I still have a TV show for 17 years called Cinema Insomnia, where we present movies. Well, we like to say they're not bad movies, just misunderstood. And we've been doing that in the spirit of the classic horror hosts, Elvira, Vampira, Zacherley, Dr. Shock, and also informed a little bit by Mystery Science Theater, too. And I'm happy to say that yesterday we just filmed a Mr. Lobo featurette for the brand new Mystery Science Theater box set, the 30th anniversary box set that will be coming out. So that is who I am, and usually we do a cult movie panel or a retro panel or a we did last year was the OSI 74 panel, talked a lot about the channel.
And now this is what's left.
And we're the best of what's left. Yeah, and here's Paul, who was here last year for the OSI panel.
I was hiding somewhere.
He films a lot of the Cinema Insomnia episodes. But you've got your own thing, BESTOW TV. And you do a lot of great cosplay montage videos they're epic.
And you forgot the highlight, the highlight of the whole video.
What's the highlight?
Mr. Lobo Does.
Oh yeah, Mr. Lobo Does. That is a series on BESTOW TV where we get to see Mr. Lobo's take on a lot of our great traditions in this land of ours.
And there might be something coming up.
Is there something coming up?
Maybe.
All right. Well, I guess without any...
Well, no, we still
are we
got...
almost there?
No, we got 10 minutes yet.
We've got a few minutes.
This is normal, folks.
All right. Well, we're going to have a little treat. We're going to show a Mr. Lobo Does at some point.
Eventually.
Eventually.
When we get to it.
But right now, since we are at RetroCon, there's a lot of focus here, of course, on 80s. The 80s. The 80s were a lot of fun. The 90s were like the 80s, only
less fun.
On ecstasy, right? But not quite the same. And I think that once the internet started coming in and the video stores started dying, I think that we have a embarrassment of riches. Everything is so accessible. You know, I think these things that kind of fuzzily came on our TVs or things we had to go rent from a video store, we kind of treasured them because we really had to hang on to them because we didn't know if we were going to see that crappy movie again. Nowadays, I feel like, you know, you're at a conversation in a restaurant, somebody brings up a name of a movie, and then it's up on somebody's phone, like in 2 seconds. So I don't know if that changes. Does that change? I'm going to put that question to the audience. Does that change how much affection we can have for something because it's so accessible? Does the rarity make it more precious?
There you go.
Yes.
There's your answer.
Hold on.
There we go. Here we go.
Well, Phil Donahue this. Ask the parents if Phil Donahue this.
Our generation will still remember the nostalgia of having to go get it and what it was like and the feeling of watching it in our childhood. But today's generation, they always have it. They don't, that feeling will be lost on the children. Like maybe, like my son is 30, my daughter is 19. My 30-year-old would still have some of that because he didn't have his childhood in the 90s. But my 19-year-old, if she wants something, there it is. And you don't have to wait for Saturday morning for your cartoons anymore. So you can have them anytime. So the whole Saturday morning feel is lost. But I think for our generation, it's great to have it accessible because you never have that feeling anytime.
Thank you very much. And I think that with big hand for our very insightful panel attendee. Cartoons
should give her a button after the show.
And a lot of them are for adults now, right?
What? Cartoons?
Cartoons.
It's called anime.
It's called anime. Some of it's called anime.
In the 90s, you know, all the adult cartoons were really subversive. Like, I would say, like Ren and Stimpy. You know, they kind of got that in under the radar. And I think that made it a little more exciting because it's like, how did this get on TV? You know? I think Batman the Animated Series was a great cartoon of the 90s. I think that was incredibly well done and so sophisticated. I mean, you know, I think a lot of the younger kids weren't as into it as their parents were or the adults in the room were because it was so, they were better. But Batman the Animated Series, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think is probably one of the best Batman interpretations and really made those paled and made those movies seem not as good because they had such a great handle on the characters in the animated series of Batman.
Sure.
Wouldn't you agree about that? So, but we've got some young people. I mean, what's going to be the next Star Wars? I don't know. I mean,
How about Star Wars?
Star Wars is
Star
the
Wars
next
will be
Star
the next Star Wars?
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, you know, Star Wars, when I was a kid, I was worried that I was going to that Star Wars would stop somehow. You know, I remember making plans as a kid to be buried with all my action figures because I didn't want to live in a world. I didn't even want to die in a world without Star Wars.
Buried with your action figures or buried by your action figures?
Well,
you have that many?
Yeah, buried by my action figures and then
Just a
buried
hand underneath
with my action figures. I was that concerned that Star Wars would go out of fashion and I'd have to somehow live without it. And now it's so prevalent. You know, when you've got your Darth Vader Easter bonnet, you know, and whatever, your Jabba the Hutt catheter, and you know, any kind of product you can think of.
I have 2 of those. I don't know why. One Minton box.
You know, you go from something that is somewhat counterculture to where, you know, I remember all the adults in my life didn't even understand Star Wars. You know, it was really quick cut and everything about it seemed alien to them. They couldn't pronounce any of the characters' names. Now it's Mickey Mouse, literally. It's as top of the line, mainstream as you can be. So are we gonna get back to Halloween now? I guess we can.
Halloween.
We want to talk about Halloween?
Sure.
Which microphone are you talking into?
That pink one down there.
That pink one. All right. So basically, I guess we're talking about nostalgia. We're talking about good times. How many people trick-or-treated as a kid?
How many people trick-or-treated last night just for the hell of it?
Yeah.
For the record, that was
when
2.
2001 came and when September 11th happened, I thought that was going to be the end of trick-or-treating forever. You know, we'd all go down to the airport and have our candy x-rayed together. That was going to be the new tradition, right? And somehow it's persisted and we still have that in our lives. And what is the deal with trick-or-treaters?
What is the deal with trick-or-treaters?
I sound like Seinfeld, right? What's the deal with trick-or-treaters? Why is it that no one says trick-or-treat anymore? It's always, how many pieces? How many pieces? You get 1 and never come back.
All right, man. So I said that once last year. Will you let it go?
And then I love when they just dig through the bowl and try to find just the right thing. It's like, you know, this is not, you don't just look for your favorite candy, you know? You just take what you get and you like it. You know, this is free candy. Free, you know what's great about free candy? It's free.
And it's candy.
Yeah. So if you don't want it, you don't have to eat it, but get the hell off my porch. So in that spirit, Paul was over for Halloween, and we shot a Mr. Lobo Does.
What a segue.
Thank you.
We hit it hard like a hammer.
We shot a Mr. Lobo Does, and this right here for your edification, if they can stop screaming out there. I guess could you please be murdered some other time that's more convenient? Okay, without any further ado, Bestow TV and Mr. Lobo present to you, if we're permitted by the carnage. I just imagine that like there's a child with a dinosaur's mouth right on the other side of this panel here.
That's because there is.
No, okay. Okay. With your kind permission, and with the kind permission of RetroCon, we now present to you our first break and a little something we like to call Mr. Lobo Does Halloween.
The attack on the killer tomatoes! It's a riot! It's a scream! It's a disaster! It's
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes!
the most terrifying film since Gidget Goes to College!
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes!
The funniest, most hilarious movie since Gone with the Wind!
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes!
It's out to devour you!
In Newark, New Jersey, a man was eaten by a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich.
See the attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Good. Good.
Rated PG. Your kids will eat it up.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Lobo Does Halloween. And we've done how many Mr. Lobo Does things, Paul?
About 3?
No.
4?
No.
About 11, I think.
11. Maybe 11. And some of them are more related to an event, or they're not all just me standing there talking to myself. They're varied.
Some have the non-talk.
I don't know why I can't remember to talk into this microphone.
I can hear you fine.
You have to have it basically nested in the soul patch so that anyone can hear what I'm saying.
Does this help?
Yes, that's perfect. Just hold it like just hold it like that.
Okay.
This is the worst, Paul.
My arm's tired.
All right. Mr. Lobo Does Halloween. We'll probably have that up on OSI 74 along with our regular Cinema Insomnia Halloween specials. We have a lot of, I've been doing my show for 17 years, so we have a lot of Mr. Lobo hosting a horror movie with a lot of old trailers and vintage commercials and all sorts of fun things. So if you have a Roku, at OSI 74, and you will see a lot of weird stuff. So I guess we were talking about retro stuff and Halloween. We talked a little bit about growing up in the 80s. How many people here grew up in the 80s? Okay, wow. So basically,
that guy kind of.
Yeah, this is our people.
He kind of did the 80s.
You haven't really fully grown up yet, Paul.
Huh? I'm still in the 80s.
Yeah, you're still in the 80s.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back into the audience. What was so great about the 80s?
Yeah, here we go.
Can someone tell me why the 80s was such a great time to grow up? Anybody?
Start picking people at random.
Media-wise, things weren't so franchised out. You didn't have movies where people were lining them up to make the next biggest thing. So there was a lot more open flow of ideas, concepts, and creativity. And as a child, you could really dig into that and embrace it, and just get behind it, and just have fun with it. It wasn't like things that are Star Wars canon, where a Wookiee can't be a Jedi or a Jawa canon for whatever random reason. But we had a lot more freedom.
A lot more freedom. I would agree with that, and I think that the franchises, even though the franchises were robust, when they made Star Wars originally, they weren't sure there was going to be another one, and it wasn't like, okay, in 2075 we're going to do a Dengar movie, and in 2086 we're going to do the Gonk movie.
I'm still waiting for Thundar
the trilogy.
I'm still waiting for the Thundar the Barbarian movie.
Where is the Thundar the Barbarian movie? That's what I want to know. So a lot of, now I don't understand the cojones of some of these distributors where they're talking about movies they're going to be putting out 20 years from now. That's pretty, that's assuming a lot of your audience, I think that you can't take your audience for granted ever. There always has to be supply and demand, and I think you have to keep an eye on, what your audience really wants, and maybe consider that it might be possible to oversaturate the market. I mean, how many Marvel properties are going concurrently right now? I can't even keep up with all the TV series and spin-offs, and I don't know if ultimately we're talking about rarity and scarcity, is that going to hurt it to have so much product?
I've been watching a few things where they talk about Star Wars, and they said that there's a point where you just don't watch certain things. You can't watch the TV series, read the books, read the comics, watch all the movies, and everything interconnects, and everything has to, live off of each other and stuff, to the point where it's like you've got to draw a line someplace. You can't binge watch 3 seasons of a Star Wars property.
I mean, you got to go to work
when it comes out.
There's so much binge watching of series on Netflix. I mean, I think if you were to try to catch up with everything, you wouldn't have time for anything else. Now, I need a distraction as much as the next person, but I got to feed myself and take a shower once in a while.
I feel the Marvel properties kind of got that way.
Yeah.
I don't really watch the Netflix stuff anymore because it's just too much.
How many
anymore.
people watch any of the? Are anybody Marvel people? Anybody like? Okay, so we got some Marvel people out here. Are you guys watching all of the shows on Netflix and all the different? What is there?
It's like, how about we get a show of hands of everybody that's seen 100% of everything Marvel? No hands.
Wow. There's a Defenders show, right?
Yeah.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
What is it?
Agent Carter.
What was it?
Agent Carter, which got canceled.
Right. There's Iron Fist, right? Power Man, Iron Fist, or is it just Iron Fist?
There's Iron Fist, but then there's also Luke Cage, rather.
Oh, Luke Cage.
They're separate entities.
Oh, okay, separate entities. Yeah, it's just too much.
Inhumans.
Too much.
Everything.
And you know, I don't know what I think now DC also has a lot of properties going at the same time.
And now they're going to have their own mobile device that you got to pay for and get their exclusive so you can get the Teen Titans. And
that's another thing too. I mean, what do you think about this? We've got like this CBS Access channel that has the Star Trek show. You can only watch this new Star Trek if you subscribe to this particular channel. You know, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, but I don't know if I would subscribe to a whole channel just to see Star Trek. I mean, is anybody here doing that? Is there not necessarily for Star Trek, but for anything? Like, okay, I'm a big fill in the blank. I have to have stars because I want to watch this show, or I have to have. Oh, you do that. What show is that? What was it? Okay,
he's going out again. He's off.
What is that? Okay, so this is it somewhat sideways connected to Harry Potter? Okay, that makes sense. So you're a huge Harry Potter fan, and so you're going to make that leap because you want to be in with everything Harry Potter. All right, well, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I just feel like there's an amazing amount of product out there, and you know, you're dealing with people who don't want to. You know, everybody says that nobody wants to pay for movies anymore, and everybody's just stealing stuff off the internet.
Cut the cord.
So, where are they making their money? Is what I guess off all the T-shirts and the toys and all of the. I mean, I'm seeing nothing but graphic tees out here.
I mean, we were kind of talking about that last night, where everybody's cutting the cord, but by the time you're done paying for all those apps and everything, you've paid more than what you're paying for cable if you want everything.
Yeah, that was something that Paul and I were talking about. Yeah, if you let's say Disney's got their own channel. If you want to see the new Star Wars movie, you'd have to subscribe to Disney. If you want to see the new,
they have a streaming TV series coming out, Mandalorian.
Right.
So that's probably where it's going.
They're doing a whole Boba Fett styled TV series. If you want to see that,
spoilers.
You're going to have to subscribe to Disney. Are there some huge Star Wars fans out here? I know there are some. I mean, are you guys planning on subscribing to Disney so you can see this Mandalorian Boba Fett jamboree?
Jamboree. No,
yes.
Those two are in the
so
back
you
or
are.
Not.
Yeah. Okay.
Two in the back or not. And
then I guess if they can get $10 a month out of you, that pays for these other jackasses who are just going to steal it, right? So maybe that's their business model is get it from who you can get it from.
I found Carmen Sandiego.
Oh my God. There she is.
There she is, folks.
There in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
Catch her before she grabs something. What's she stealing? She steals like the Statue of Liberty.
All right, gumshoes.
What's in Oaks?
I thought I was seeing Carmen Sandiego everywhere, and it was a la carte.
Oh,
isn't it? Is it a la carte? It was something. There was some anime thing where I kept seeing it, and I'm going, "Oh, it's Carmen Sandiego." No, it's not. It's not again. Carmen Sandiego. So what is the future, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, are we going to, obviously, I don't know if we can bear subscribing to 10 different channels so that we can see our favorite movies and shows.
But they could subscribe to OSI 74 for free.
But my channel is free,
Hashtag
ladies and
plug.
gentlemen. So until I go to jail, you guys can enjoy as much free content as I can give you. But I do feel like that if it isn't accessible, like this is the opposite of the thing I was saying earlier about scarcity. It has to be somewhat accessible to people to catch on. You know, if you're cloistering it all to yourself and you're just saving it for the super fans, at a certain point, your super fans are going to get old and tired, not want to give you their money anymore, and you don't have any young people coming in to take their place. You know, and we might lose a lot of these franchises that way. At least that's my feeling. You know, if you have something that is, you know, when I was a kid and I discovered Elvira, or it just came on my TV. You know, no one told me about it. I had to discover it. You know, and how do you encourage people to make those discoveries if you're not making these shows available to people to find? Because if it's not accessible to you know, people with a smaller income, then it won't go huge. It won't get that big. You have to have things that are accessible to people who don't have deep pockets. You know, you can't be making superhero movies for the 1%. You know, you definitely have to have this material accessible to people. I think that's what was great about a video store or a comic book store, is people could just walk in off the street and discover something that they never heard of before. And I think it's hard to do that if, you know, you have to be into cable $200 a month to find something. You know, I don't know. Just a thought. I don't know how you feel about that. Am I way off base? Someone tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Change my mind. You know, but yeah, is that you say something?
Here we go.
I think basic cable and Spenguli from Berwyn will show a bunch of like old retro horror movies. It's a good place to start and get younger generations into the same sort of things you're discussing.
I agree with that. I know Rich Cos, I know Spenguli. I can't get MeTV in my region, but I know that a lot of people who can get MeTV, that is an introduction for people into the world of not only classic horror movies, but classic horror movie hosts. And Spenguli was the best kept secret of his local network in Chicago for 30 years. And finally, when his station was purchased by MeTV, Spenguli was able to suddenly be able to be doing a local horror host shtick for a national audience. So even though a lot of people don't have a local horror host anymore, they now have Spenguli, which is great. And again, I don't disparage his success. I applaud it because he's been doing this for 30 years. So he's put his time in, and I'm glad everybody gets to see Spenguli now. Because it used to be kind of an occupational thing as a horror host. I'd watch those tapes that would be through the mail. I don't know who remembers mailing tapes back and forth. But you know, we'd be trading tapes, and I would treasure being able to see Spenguli do his shtick because I'd only heard about it in not in Famous Monsters, but in other publications, and you know, word of mouth. You know, and even when I was in syndication, we were on 40 broadcast stations across the country in the mid-2000s. And, you know, I would do a convention in Florida, and I wouldn't have a station there, but there was somebody whose brother was taping it off a TV and mailing it to them, you know. Mystery Science Theater built their whole appeal, their whole fandom on the keep circulating the tapes. You know, people were taping that show and mailing them back and forth, and they built this secret army of people who were watching a free show and then recording it and then sending it to their friends. No money was changing hands, but then now all those people are adults. Mystery Science Theater does a Kickstarter and raises $12 million to do a brand new season. So, you know, if you're down in the trenches with your fans and you make your work accessible and you're good to your fans, it definitely comes back to you.
You can't keep everything in the Scrooge McDuck vault and hold on to it so tightly that you can't let that fandom grow. I mean, the people who make these properties have to realize that it's the fans that put them where they are. When people come to a convention to see a celebrity, the celebrity's thinking, all these people are here for me. But really, it's the other way around. They're there for the fans, and that's a different relationship. Those people there, they're the people who made you who you are. They made you famous, and they can make you unfamous. So you have to be really good to your fans. At least I feel that way. Any disagreements on that point? All right. Do we want to take another break, or is it that time?
Not yet. We still got some time. About 4 more minutes.
4 minutes. 4 minutes. I have to jack jaw for 4 more minutes. We'll take another break.
Break dance. Here's to put the beat up.
Svengoolie has a tradition of doing songs on his show. I've done a few songs on Cinema Insomnia. One of the songs we did, which we're not playing today, came by accident. I always wanted to do a spoof of the Banana Splits. Does anybody remember the Banana Splits? Okay, a few people. Banana Splits were a rock band comprised of a dog, a gorilla, an elephant, and what was the other one?
Monkey?
A lion.
No.
Lion, dog, gorilla. Not a real lion, dog, and a gorilla, but people in dopey costumes.
That would have been a totally different show.
Dopey mascot costumes. And they had a rock band called the Banana Splits, and they would be the hosts in between a bunch of cartoons. And I thought it would be fun to do a horror movie version of that, where it would be, robot monster and a yeti and an alien, and they would be kind of guys in dopey monster costumes from the B movies doing a Banana Splits thing. And I had this idea for 2.5 years, and I thought, we could never get that sound. We could never make it sound like a groovin' pop song from an old cartoon, the kind of song that would play when a bunch of teenagers are getting chased by a mummy, bubblegum pop song from the early 70s. That's what I wanted it to sound like. And then out of the blue, this is a really weird thing, Svengoolie's webmaster sent a copy of my show to Ron Dante of the Archies. Ron Dante recorded all the voices and all the singing for the Archies cartoon, including Sugar Sugar, which was a #1 smash hit. He was also on my Spider-Man, my favorite record when I was a kid, which was the Spider-Man from Beyond the Grave. And it was Spider-Man and Doctor Strange fighting the Kingpin, and there was a groovin' pop song every 5 minutes of the story. Crawl like a spider, love like a man, So we had... I played that record so much that I wore all the grooves off of it. It was just an empty piece of plastic in a sleeve. So Ron Dante was the Web Spinners, which was the fake band on the Spider-Man record of my youth. He was in all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. He was the voice of the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups commercial. Two great tastes that taste great together, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. He did all that stuff, and out of the blue, I get a letter from him saying, I love monster movies. I caught your show while I was on tour. If you ever need anything from me, let me know. And we got our Saturday morning cartoon theme sung by the Archies. And that is just, if you want to look for it on YouTube, the name of the song is I'm Watching TV. And I'm Mr. Lobo, and I think if you put in I'm Watching TV and Mr. Lobo, you'll find that song somewhere. But it also lives in our House on Haunted Hill Halloween special from 2005. So that will be on the Roku channel if you want to check that out. Now, did I kill enough time?
You did. Now
okay.
Let's set up this next video.
Perfectly set up now.
What a segue.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. we are not alone. A Columbia Pictures presentation.
Now playing at a theater near you.
So that was the Halloween candy. I don't know if you can hear the lyrics, but none of that was candy. There was not a single edible thing listed in our Halloween candy thing. It's weird that legend, how that legend persists of children being poisoned by their neighbors on Halloween, where the only recorded case of that ever happening was someone who's poisoning their own kids and was trying to cover it up for insurance. So anyway, there on that happy note. Hey, happy Halloween, everybody.
Hey.
But that was Halloween candy. That was a lot of fun. That is, again, part of the VHS Halloween special, which is on our Roku channel, OSI 74. That footage that my wife edited that, Dixie Delamorto, she's here at our table today. That footage was taken from an old safety public service announcement about screening your candy for Halloween. And she just re-edited it to go along with the song. But it was made in the 1970s, late 1970s. How many of you wore those plastic Ben Cooper or Collegeville Halloween costumes? It's got like the name of the character on the chest, you know, you didn't wear
or
those?
The record.
Yeah. I had one where it said like, you know, I think it was like Mork and Mindy or something like that. And then it's like, you know, you've already got the mask on. And then it says, then it's got a picture of the character again on the chest of the plastic poncho that goes with the mask.
And a big bold arrow pointing up.
Yes, the big arrow, yes. And then it tells you again, Mork and Mindy costume, you know, or whatever. Arthur Fonzarelli costume. Tells you it's a costume even. That's how bad those things were.
In case you forgot.
I was really excited when the Spider-Man one actually had the webbing on it and blue and red, and you know, that was exciting and dangerous that it almost looked like a costume when I got the Spider-Man one. But you know, they were like.
You think the thought is that most kids would just get rid of the apron and just wear the mask because it's the only.
No, I think the thought was to make it as cheap as possible. I did figure out I cracked the code on that. The reason it has a picture of the character, one is because the masks are so bad that you can't tell who it is. But secondly, the name of the character's on there so that the adult opening the door to the kids goes, oh, and you're Holly Hobbie, and you're the $6 Million Man, and you're Jimmy Carter, and you're Fonzie, and you're R2-D2. So
Jimmy Carter,
was really,
what kid was buying that one?
That was we had someone who was Jimmy Carter
for
Halloween. Sure, and I bet you there's a 10-year-old with a Trump mask out there this year.
Did you just admit to that?
No, I didn't. I would never be Jimmy Carter for Halloween. The worst Halloween for me was when I was Yoda, because I had my plastic Collegeville Yoda mask on, and I made these little 3-fingered hands out of felt, and I had a little robe, and I made little feet for my knees, and I like walked on my knees to everyone's door so I could be Yoda, and I had bloody stumps for legs by the time the night was over. And I also had a cut on my tongue from trying to stick my tongue through the mouth slit on the plastic costume. What a miserable thing.
Because Yoda did that all the time in the
movies. Yes, Yoda constantly was sticking his tongue in the plastic mouth slit.
Luke.
How about the Dracula teeth? Anybody have like the plastic vampire fangs? I like to call that a saliva machine. Because first of all, you got the lateral lips like this when you're saucy. And then it's like you're just drooling like a Saint Bernard the whole night. You know, and then you make the really big mistake and try to cut the elastic that's connecting the top and the bottom teeth. And you can never wear them again. How about wax lips? Anybody? Yes, wax lips. Now, I was told you don't eat the wax lips. I always ate them.
Since when? I always ate them.
I got shamed. Really? I'm gonna have to go find that person because that was immediately. I'd eat the wax lips.
Like immediately? You wouldn't even wear them? You just like.
Yes, of course. What candies do we have? Favorite candies? What's your favorite Halloween candy? We got what?
There
yes. Reese's peanut butter cups? Okay.
Reese's Pieces.
Thanks,
Which
E.T.
one?
But or the peanut butter cups. Yeah, that's a really good one actually. I like the eggs that they have now. The peanut butter. Well, I guess for Halloween they're pumpkins. That would be really weird if you I got an Easter peanut butter egg for Halloween.
You've never been to my house.
That would be is that what it is? That would be funny. Like, oh, we don't have any candy. Hold on, and they pull out like the basket with the Easter grass and everything.
And
Here you
give out just the
go.
grass.
Here's some Jordan almonds, and yeah. So, but
Candy corn. Does anybody eat
candy corn? Yeah, I love
I'm
candy
so
corn.
sorry for you.
That is a guilty pleasure. Candy corn. Our friend Steve is working on a candy corn flavored coffee for Mr. Lobo. How many people would drink a Mr. Lobo coffee? Okay, well we've got 5 customers, so get on it, Steve.
Yeah. Right there, you got 5 sales.
Yes.
Start collecting
right
now.
away. Candy corn. Now, anybody stick the candy corn in their mouth and try to make sharp teeth? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
See, the people
I'm
that
not
don't
alone.
eat candy corn all did that. You see that? They didn't raise their hand for the candy corn, but as soon as you said where teeth.
I stuck it in my mouth for teeth. I got it in here right now.
I still have mine in from last year.
Necco wafers.
Necco
Steve, you're
wafers.
the only one who likes Necco wafers. I'm sorry. No, you like him really? Because that would be like the house on the block that would get burned down by the end of Halloween.
They're the
Necco
ones that,
wafers.
They're the ones with the
That's
the
not quite
with
as bad
runny
as apples.
stools.
The person who got apples always had a lawn full of discarded apples. You know, they didn't even make it all the way up the driveway before they just like chuck it at the house.
Boxes of
Yes.
raisins.
Oh God!
Peanut butter, isn't it like peanut
what are
butter?
they called? Like Mary Jane's? Oh God! Those weird, just peanut butter. I feel like it's just like some kind of caulk, industrial caulk.
I think I
or
still have my Mary
some
Jane's
kind of-
from the 1980s, which were leftovers from my grandfather.
Oh yeah, completely pull your teeth out with every bite. What is it? Oh, they're made by Necco also?
That's what's
So
wrong with
obviously
the
the
world.
Necco people hated children. That is the only thing that makes sense to me. Smarties I never really was a big fan of. You like Smarties? Oh, you're a Smarties fan. Wow. What about, you remember all the like O. Henry? Anybody remember O. Henry? Oh, okay. I love that. Or Big Hunk? Any Big Hunk people out here tonight?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm going to bet that Santa Claus back there likes milk and cookies for Halloween.
Santa, did you like milk and cookies for Halloween? Yes.
I think he's asleep.
I think he might be asleep.
Okay.
He's got to rest up. He's got like 80 million households to go to.
He's picking up for now. He's shopping early.
Easter, no matter how bad the candy got for Halloween, it was never as bad as Easter candy. I think Easter has the cheapest, grossest, stupidest candy.
Look, I got an 8-foot rabbit.
I don't like Peeps.
This is going to be great. 8-foot rabbit full of chocolate, and you eat, and it's this thin,
Yes.
and it's hollow inside.
Yeah, and it's like that weird waxy chocolate. You know, it's not like good quality chocolate. But
Eat the eyeballs off that
So-
thing and leave it go.
trick or treating. What do you? Now, obviously, we don't have people maybe taking your kids to trick or treat. Do you guys take kids or grandkids to trick or treat?
Remember some of these people who were doing it last night.
Do you teach them right? Do you make them say thank you? That's good. You know, because it used to be that there's really only one protocol: trick or treat. Right? You say trick or treat, and then after you get the candy, you say thank you. Not how many pieces. What are you, a monster? How many pieces? How many can I take? You know. All right, good. Yeah. Nowadays they just, it's just like, no costume. They come up, they pull a gun, no costume. Where's the safe? Yeah, you know, every year.
Every year. It costs you every year.
I don't understand the honor bowl, where they just put the bowl of Halloween candy out, and then like in a half an hour it's like knocked over, and I guess it depends on how courteous you think the neighborhood kids are, but usually the honor bowl gets rated pretty bad. The first kid just they're taking big fistfuls of candy.
Or your neighbor.
Or your neighbor, yeah, exactly.
That's because the honor bowl at your
some
house
Halloween
is filled with
traditions. Now, the new Halloween movie is coming out. The 1978 movie, Halloween, believe this or not, is 40 years old. Jamie Lee Curtis, 1978, that was 40 years ago. They've got this reboot coming out that somehow completely negates episodes 2, 4, 5 forward, but Halloween 3 still happened. So Halloween 3 is still validated by this new movie, but the rest of them, you're out. And I have kind of mixed feelings on that because I really like Halloween 3.
You know what?
I think... What? Yeah, what? Yes, I know. I know.
If you listen to the podcast, you'd know.
Yeah, so... but it's interesting because now they've got a completely new canon for this series of movies now. What do you feel about that as fans? How do you feel about like changing the timeline of a series where they go back and say, oh, you know that movie you saw? Well, that didn't happen, and this movie didn't happen. I mean, they did that with Superman, right? When Superman Returns, they negated what, the third one? Or did they even negate the second Superman movie?
I think they negated the third one, but continued on the second.
Okay, continued from the second movie and negated the third. I mean, do you think that that's fair to do that in a series of films, or do they have to own all of them? I mean, what are your opinions on that? Do we have an opinion about that in the audience, about franchises changing the timeline or rebooting or actually accepting some of the movies from a series but not others?
Before you watch this, you have to finish it.
Any thoughts on that?
Read it.
No thoughts on that? It's difficult because I liked Superman 3. I thought Richard Pryor was awesome in Superman 3. That whole gimmick about stealing the half pennies from everyone's paycheck and buying himself a Ferrari was a great idea.
We got the signal.
Okay, we got the signal.
We got the gesture.
We got the obscene gesture of wrapping this up. But I hope you have some wonderful Halloween traditions. I hope you watch some horror movies, whether you're watching the classic Halloween from 1978 or this brand new one, which I don't know anything about, but I'm intrigued to see.
You have been listening to the Sleepless Nights podcast, or should we say, pODDcast.
pODDcast.
Emphasis on the odd. Our theme is by Mars Homeworld at Dead House Music. Our opening announcement is by Ophelia Necro. She does a radio show called Suicide Watch. And you could reach Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com or find me on YouTube, YouTube/Mr. Lobo, MISTERLOBO. Mr. Lobo on Facebook, Facebook/MR.LOBO, or on Twitter at Mr. Lobo, MISTERLOBO.
Or you can find myself, Paul Sanders, or better known as Bestow TV, at bestow.tv, on YouTube /Bestow TV, on Twitter at BestowProd, PROD, and on Facebook, Bestow TV.
If you want to place an advertisement with this podcast, and gosh, why wouldn't you? We could be talking about you right now. Contact us, Mr. Lobo at cinemainsomnia.com. That's MRLOBO @CINEMAINSOMNIA.com. Or support us on Patreon. Patreon supporters get to hear this podcast before anyone else and a lot of other great stuff, right, Paul?
Sure.
Doesn't get it better than that, right? So come join the fun at patreon.com/cinemainsomnia. That's patreon.com/cinemainsomnia. Please stay up with us next week for another Sleepless Nights podcast. Or should we say, pODDcast.
pODDcast.
The best thing about being an insomniac is never having to say goodnight.
Good night.